our young friends, and today I think you're very blessed and lucky to have Dr. So here, and his journey of life is one of the most dramatic one ever heard. And if I remember right, he didn't even finish high school. Okay, and then he had to work very hard in the very bottom of the ladder in Hong Kong. Okay, all kind of labor work as a teenager, just to survive. And you know, Hong Kong is a very tough place to survive. Not to mention, as a teenager, you have to make living for yourself. Forget about school education. He just have to barely survive. So I'm not going to talk about too much. But then he's a PhD from American University. I forgot the name. And he did so much accomplishment, big data, computer science, everything. So I'll just give the time to Dr. So and let him talk about his dramatic life. Please listen carefully and please understand. Please try to learn from him and do some reflection on your own life. Okay, Dr. So, please.
Thank you, Ming. Hi, my name is Ning. You can call me Ning. And the Chinese name is Su Ning. So is my family name. And Ning is, I was born in Nanjing, China. So I'm a first generation American Chinese. Nanjing is the shortened name for Nanjing is Ning, and it was the old capital of China. Just to kind of relate to you, I have two boys. I'm father of two boys. Wonderful teenagers, but sometimes give me challenges. So I'm keep on learning every day as working with them. One of them is 8th grader, 14 years old. My older one is 10th grader, 16 years old. So, so they are in a similar age as you, many of you are. I have told them my story, my life's journey. My life's journey is full of grace. And I would say that although I have experienced a lot in my life, many of the things I experienced was because of under the backdrop of the historical background. Some of you may or may not understand. I will try to tell you about it. Then you can learn about it. And because many of the Chinese, as we are, if we are heritage Chinese, we have lived through in the past century as a several generations of Chinese, we have experienced a lot. And mine is a reflection of towards the very end of this last century's struggle as a group, as a race, and also as we found new hope in this new land, and especially in our Lord Jesus Christ, and that he really wiped away many of our tears and gave us renewed hope and renewed life going forward. So you can interrupt me if you have any time. You can have any questions, you want to raise it on the discussion board, that's fine. And in my life, I have gone through two dramatic turning points. Those two turning points are the point in my life so far are really shaped up and changed my trajectory in my life, how I went about living and how I went about being a person that shaped up my personality and shaped up my life, my family, and my career. So I can share some with you. I was born in Nanjing, China, as I said. I was born in a typical middle-class family in China. So both of my parents are chemical engineers. My father was a chemical design engineer on the plants, on the chemical plant. My mom is a chemical research engineer, and I have a sister. So very typical Chinese family, middle class. But at the time, I was born in 1969. Some of you may have learned from school if you are a high school student. China was during the time of Cultural Revolution. The Cultural Revolution was a very turbulent time in the Chinese history, recent history. The Chinese society at that time was turned upside down, was very poor, and we were, we don't have air conditioner in summer. Nanjing's weather is very similar to Dallas or to the southern part of the US. In the summer, it's very hot, very frequently gets above 100 degrees. And in the winter, it's very cold. So we have no air conditioning, no heating, no refrigerators, no television, no cars. My parents, even though at middle class, they made enough living to keep us fed. That's about it. But it was a very simple time, and we were very happy. So we went to school, and I was just like many of you, didn't know any better at the time. We didn't know any outside world. China was isolated from rest of the world during the Cultural Revolution. And that's my grow up environment. Very poor, very simple, but quite happy. So I was just like any elementary school and the middle school students, just like you. But my time of my first turning point in my life came when I was in high school. If you know the Chinese history, China opened up. So Nixon and China established a relationship right after the Cultural Revolution ended in 1976, around there. So 74 to 76, China and US began to connect again, and then the diplomatic relationship was established. My grandparents, my grandmother left China right after Chinese government took over, the communist government took over China. So she escaped from mainland China, went to Hong Kong. But my grandfather left behind in Beijing to take care of her mom, his mom, my great grandmother at that time. So my grandparents were separated since 1950 until 1978, after China reopened, and my grandma came back to China, looked for my grandpa, and they reunited. And then she brought my grandpa out of China from Beijing to Hong Kong. So that is the big historical drop. And their life, my grandfather's life was changed, and then in turn changed my life, because I was the only son for 3 generations. So I'm the only grandson of my grandfather. After he got to Hong Kong, he said, well, I want my grandson to come to Hong Kong to be with us, because at that time, Hong Kong is under British rule. And it was a capitalism. It was a very rich and vibrant society in comparing with China, which was ravaged by Cultural Revolution. So when I was still in elementary school, my grandparents applied for me to leave China to reunite with them in Hong Kong. And the whole process took about 4 years. So I applied when I was in elementary school, and the permission was approved for me to migrate to Hong Kong when I was in high school. And my parents, because they have steady job, and because my sister was still young, she was 4 years younger than me, so they decided to stay behind in China. Only me moved to Hong Kong to be with my grandparents. So I left China when I was still in high school. I did not know the local language. Hong Kong speak Cantonese. In China, in Nanjing, we spoke Mandarin. And I don't understand any Cantonese. Might as well be Spanish to me. So I moved over there. And my hope was that now I'm leaving a very poor country at that time, China, to go to a very rich country, Hong Kong, at that time, still under British rule, in hope that I will continue my education, I will be able to succeed and make money and make my family proud and establish my roots and my family outside of China. What I was not expecting is that in 1984, so 2 years, 3 years after I applied to go to China, before I arrived in China, Chinese government and the British government had a joint announcement. It's a Sino-British joint declaration. It was announced at end of 1984 that is Hong Kong will be given back to China at 1997. Now with that joint declaration, what caused is the entire Hong Kong market crashed because nobody was expecting that Hong Kong will be given back to China to be ruled by Chinese government instead of the British government, because Hong Kong was under the British rule since the last century, so it has been almost 100 years, and was a very different social system. One is the capitalism, and China was communism, very different government structure, and Hong Kong was very vibrant, and China was just came out of Cultural Revolution, was very poor, and was in a very, very bad economic condition. What happened to China after the announcement that was made to Hong Kong was that the stock market crashed, the housing market crashed, and during that crash, it came out really fast that my grandparents, my grandma, lost everything. She lost everything. Her investment, her stock, everything was lost, and she lost so much money because of the crash. She has to sell her house and sell all the possessions, all the assets she owned to pay back the debt. So essentially, my grandparents, they were bankrupt. But my grandma and grandpa feel so ashamed of it. They did not dare to tell my parents. So when I arrived in Hong Kong, I was facing a situation that my grandmother passed away. She can't take the hit at such an old age. So she died a year before I went to Hong Kong in 1985. She lost everything at the beginning of 85, and then then she lost her life. She basically died because of the trauma she felt, emotional and trauma she felt in 1986. And my grandpa, at the very old age, and she was not very healthy, so he couldn't walk, and they lost all the money. They didn't tell my parents, so I was in hope I would continue go to Hong Kong, be united with my grandparents to continue my study. But suddenly, after landing in Hong Kong, I was facing a situation that 5 of us, my grandfather, my aunt, 2 of my aunt's husband, and my uncle, and myself, 5 of us was living in a small efficiency apartment that is about 400 square feet. So that is a size that is smaller than most of your garage. So if you look at your garage, your car garage, if you have a 2-car garage, it's typically about 450 square feet. 5 of us was living in a small efficiency apartment that is about 400 square feet. So my aunt come to me when I arrived there saying that, Ning, sorry, you cannot go to school anymore because we all have to work. We have no money. If you don't work, you don't earn a salary, you don't eat. So after landing in Hong Kong, immediately I fall into a situation that is, even though I was only barely 17, I'm still a teenager. I still haven't even graduated from high school, and I was living in a middle-class family, even though poor, but I had, my parents took care of us. The only thing I had to worry about is to go to school. To suddenly now I have come to a place that I don't speak the language. I don't know anybody except my relatives there. I don't know anything about the place. It's a foreign country to me, and I have to immediately to work. And I have never worked a day in my life before. It was a shock was the understatement, and I didn't have any skills. What kind of job can I find? Hong Kong was a very, very tough place for people that is economically poor. So my first job was my aunt talked to one of his friends who knows somebody who is a manager at a restaurant, saying that, okay, why don't you come in and be a busboy? Basically, after people eat at restaurant, I go there, clean up the table, and get the leftover food into the garbage, get the dishes to the dishwasher in the back, and that's it. And that's the only thing I can do because there's no communication needed. That was my first job. So I said, okay, I will do whatever. I have no choice. And Hong Kong taught me a first lesson, first day when I go to work. So I have to go to a restaurant very early. We typically start at about 5:30 in the morning. So I got there at 5:30 because you have to prepare. We get there, we had a simple breakfast that prepared by restaurant, and then we get started doing the cleaning and prepare for the restaurant to be open around 6 o'clock. When I got there, that you have to sign your name in, and there is a one waiter in front of me. He signed his name, and I had no pen with me. There's no pen at the sign-in table that your name and you sign your enter time. And he gave me his pen, said, okay, use my pen to sign. I signed my name. I didn't think of it, and then I went to the kitchen. And then after a few hours, he came back to me and said, Ning, where's my pen? I said, I gave you my pen. I gave you your pen right after I signed it. He said, no, you didn't. I said, yes, I did. I don't have your pen. I gave it to you. He said, you did not give it to me. Now give me my pen. My pen is a gold pen. It's worth a lot of money. You have to pay me. I know that I gave his pen back. I don't have any proof. Becomes that he says, I say the situation. So he was looking at me as I'm a newbie in town. I'm a new boy in town. I don't know anybody. I don't speak language. So he can take advantage of me. So cut it short, I had to go back to my aunt, and she has to talk to her friend in the restaurant. Her friend talking in the restaurant and get the waiter out, and we have to talk and basically have to settle this. So basically, we bought a meal for him and kind of settled this. So says, hey, I'm covered by somebody, so don't really just do whatever you want with me. So that is the kind of environment I was living in Hong Kong. I was immediately thrown into the very bottom, the dog-eat-dog world of the society. I started with the busboy and then continued my work at the bottom of society. I was doing loading and unloading at a storage. Those are the very, very tough work that if you see the big semi-truck on the highway, you see those semi-truck carries a big container on its back. Those containers, some of them are 40 feet long, some of them are 20 feet long. So once they get to the storage, that I was part of the crew that is have to unload whatever is in the container or load the container. And we have a crew of 5. the most work we have done, a crew of 5, is we have to load 2 40-feet containers and unload 3 of them in a day. It's very, very tough work. So that's about, so each container holds about 80,000 pounds. So you think about unload 3 and load 2. So each day is about 400,000 pounds of stuff we have to do with our bare hands. Crew of 5 there, I was not even graduated from high school, but I was the most highly educated one in the group. Most of them, none of them, other than myself, have even graduated from elementary school. My crew contained of one that has murdered somebody in China and escaped and risked his life and came to US. And some of people are just never went to school a day in their life. There's a peasants and escaped China, came to Hong Kong, trying to find a better living. And also some of the gang members of Hong Kong that got out of jail, couldn't get a job anywhere. So those are the common people that are working the bottom of the society that are working with me. And I had done street delivery that often that we have to carry. If you see the soda cans, each box of soda cans is about 24 to 48 cans. So you have to load 3, 4, 5 cases on the shoulder and deliver them onto stores. In Hong Kong, many of the stores, the restaurants on the second, third floor. First floor are just restaurants and stores that is facing customer, but their kitchen, their storage are usually on the second, third floor. We have to carry them many places by hand to go deliver some to second, third, sometimes even fourth story. So those are the work that I have done. And I saw this, immediately I realized that this is not the life I want. I was hoping I come to Hong Kong that I can find the opportunity. I can find a better opportunity to improve myself, to continue the education. But suddenly I got thrown into the bottom of the society. So the only way I know I can do to get out of this is through better education. Because I see the people around me that are working with me are 40, 50 years old. They have done this for 10, 15, 20 years, and they have been trapped. They cannot get out. Education is the only way to get myself out of it. So immediately I said, okay, I want to continue, but I have to go do a job. What do? I have a full-time job during daytime. I go to a night school at night. I said, I have to finish my secondary education. I had to finish my high school. Hong Kong educational system is a British system. So you have their entire middle school and high school are called Form 1 to Form 5. Essentially it's a 5-year middle school and high school. And I went through night school and finished my Form 5 and passed the test. But in order to get to college in Hong Kong, I have to go through Form 6 and Form 7. That's 2 more years of prep school to be able to apply for the British rules systems education system. So I was saying that, okay, this is another year to 2 year wasted of me. And instead, I want to directly get into college. So I prepared my SAT, my test of English as second language with a TOEFL, and try to apply for anywhere else that may be able to take me in as a college student to save a couple more years from my life. So I applied everywhere, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, US. And during the process of applying, I was also working, because I know no matter wherever I go, anywhere I go, I have to have the money to get started. So in the process of applying, I have to work 2-3 jobs in Hong Kong at the same time to save enough money. So I have a day job. At that time, my Cantonese was much better because I have a Form 5 graduation certificate. I can get a so-called low-level office job during daytime, working from 9 to 5. So after 5 o'clock, then I go to supermarket to do the second shift. The second shift starts at 6 o'clock at night and finishes at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 a.m. And at 1 a.m., I get from the supermarket, and because night shift usually is loading, unloading, restocking, and clean up and reorganize the storage, and those are the hard labor work. And after 1 o'clock, I get out of work. I get to home about 2 o'clock, and I eat a little bit, and then I go to sleep because I have to get up again next morning to go to work. So that was my routine. And so I saved every penny possible, and worked 2 jobs. And because of a supermarket job, every 3 months, every quarter, we have to count. They do the inventory count. So during the inventory count, then I have to work 24 hours. So usually it's 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock next morning. And then at 8 o'clock next morning, I go directly from the supermarket to my day job. After day job, I go to the supermarket. Because the night shift do the inventory, right? So the max I have ever done was 3 days, 72 hours straight without sleep, continuously going. And I was tired to the degree that is I could not help to fall asleep while walking downstairs. So I fall down from top of the stairs to the bottom, and then I woke up, and because I had twisted my ankle. But you can't help. You are so tired working that you can't even help to fall asleep. I can sleep walk. That was easy for me. I can even sleep and work. I can count actually while kind of half sleep, but you cannot sleep walking downstairs. That was the lesson I learned. So I fell down. But during that time, I still remember there was one sign of me that I still remember today vividly. As I was walking, because I want to save about a dime, I was walking from where I live to where I work. So it's about 35 minutes walk to 40 minutes walk. So I can save a dime instead of taking the trolley of Hong Kong. There is a big building in central Hong Kong that I walk by every day. There's a big sign on it. On the building said, I am the way, I am the truth, I'm the life in Chinese. And every day I walking by past that, I didn't understand it. I said, who is this dare to say such a thing? Who is this that is so bold, can claim such a claim? This is, now 30 years later, 40 years later, when I look back, that image still itches in my mind. Because that time I was struggling every day. I was struggling to live and struggling to keep my hope. And suddenly see this statement, the shock was unbelievable. I did not have a chance to read Bible. I have never been to church in my life. But that statement gave me such a shock and impact that I can still feel today. Okay, so that was the first seed that God planted in my heart without me even knowing it. While I was struggling, I was running every day, running for my life, running to keep myself afloat, running to keep myself from sinking to the bottom and suffocating to death. And that image I pass through every day shocks me every time I see it. So cut it short, that as I was saving money and I was applying, I got rejected just about by every school because my grade was not very good. I have to work and go to night school. So my English TOEFL score was only 440. So many of you don't know TOEFL, but some of you, if you know about it, it was a very, very poor score. University typically requires 500 and above. So I couldn't get anybody to accept me. Finally, I don't know what happened. Wichita State University ESL program, English as Second Language program, accepted. Says, okay, you can come to study English with us. And that's really thrilled me. I said, I don't care. I do anything, go anywhere to get off this rat hole that I'm in. So I said, okay, I will go to Wichita State. So I went to US consulate to apply. I have no idea where is Wichita. I have no idea where is Kansas. And I have not connected the dots that the Wizard of Oz, that's the hometown of Tornado, is where I'm going to. Okay, so I have not connected dots yet. I connected a while after I landed there, and the Hong Kong I didn't know, but I don't care either. Okay, I just say wherever I will go, and I go to U.S. consulate to apply for visa to get there. Of course, I got rejected over and over and over again. And for me, becomes a battle of will. I said, okay, you can reject me, but I can come to apply again and again and again. Whatever you want me, I will be preparing for you. Whatever you want from me, I will get it for you. So the sheer determination and sheer will that I have to get out of that red hole to be able to save myself from sinking saved me. So after 4 rejection, they gave me a visa to come to US. And then of course, I immediately found a 3rd job. And so I was working to save everything I can. And then I came to US in 1990. I still remember, I landed in the US 1990, August 11th in Wichita. And then started my new journey in life. But now looking back, even when I was in the US, looking back at my first turning point of my life, that is, I left China. I left a middle-class life, was comfortable, even though was poor, but I was like a typical teenager. I fight with my parents, and I think I was the best in the world. My parents are dumb, don't know anything. I know everything in the world because I read a lot of books, right? And I think I can do anything. My parents cannot do anything. That was typical my thoughts as well. Suddenly, I got thrown into the bottom of the society. And I have seen everything happening around me. I have seen people join gangs, get put into prison. People get out of prison. Very hard to find regain their footing in their life. Because once you get into that situation, you have to have a tremendous amount of will and fighting power, and also be very, very fortunate to get out of it. And I still believe that an invisible hand held me through, really led me through all of those difficult times. And I was really hardened, toughed up, because I see the people all around me. Everybody is fighting for their own life. I was fighting for my life. Everybody was fighting. Doesn't matter if you are 20 years old or you are 50 years old. Many people in Hong Kong, if you check YouTube, you will find there's something in Hong Kong called caged people. Caged people are the people who does not even live in an apartment. They live in a cage. That's really true. You know, bunker beds. In Hong Kong, the bottom of society, people live on the bunker beds, and the bunker bed, one shelf of the bunker bed is all they own. So how do they keep their own possession and privacy? They build a cage around their frame. They put a lock on the cage. All they own is a cage above their bunker shelf. When they go to work, they put their belonging inside that shelf and in the cage and lock the cage, and they go out. They pay a rent for that cage. That's all their life. They are saving every penny because they have to support their family. They still have wife, children back in China that waiting on the couple $100, not US dollars, Hong Kong dollars, maybe a couple hundred US dollars worth that will support their entire family back home. So those are the environment that I was in, and I've seen millions of people living in a similar environment. Even today, we live in, most of us, I think on this Zoom call, live in a US middle class. My kids certainly live in a US middle class, very comfortable. They think their parents are dumb. They are the smartest people in the world, of course. But I was there, been there, done that, have the same thing. But Hong Kong, my experience there turned my life around, turned my thinking around very quickly. Very quickly, I would say within a day or two on the job, and suddenly put the reality of life in me. And after I come to the US, things are changing again. And quickly I will get into my second turning point in my life. But I want to finish my first part of my story is I came to the US when I was 20. I first went to Hong Kong when I was 16. So I lived in Hong Kong for 4 years, and though was a lot of pain, but it was a treasured experience of me. And I hope that if I don't wish any of you that on any of you, but at least if you can open your eyes to see some of those, may not be around you, but maybe in the country neighboring to us. Many places are still like that. And you are looking at a person talking to you who lived through that.
Wow. Dr. So, this is so inspiring. I can never imagine what kind of life that was, and yet you really treasure what you have struggled through. You have shown us tremendous determination, perseverance, resilience, and grit. All these, what I call adversity quotient characteristics. That is incredible, and we couldn't wait to hear part 2 of your story next Saturday.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
This is remarkable. Yeah. We cannot imagine. We would always hear Dr. So giving tremendous technical talks in large audience when I was in Dallas. I know we belong to the same organizations, and we really have greatest respect for Dr. So's technical and business accomplishment. But rarely do we know Dr. So's past history and the background, and this is really eye-opening. Are there any questions from the young people? From anyone? We're here for a treat, and wait till we hear how God turned Dr. So's life around in part 2, and how world famous he is in the field of cloud computing and 5G communication. A lot of the technologies that you guys are hoping to learn and study when you go to college, because they are the enabling technology of all the fancy applications that we got to enjoy today. And Dr. So will share more of that with us, and he's an expert in those fields. But I can't wait how God is like continuing the drama series, right? Next week, we'll see how God would take Dr. So through the last 30-some years in the United States. So there's a question, is it? Oh, so Dr. So how heavy were the boxes you carried off the trailer trucks?
Okay,
Thank you.
good question. So some of the things that we have done, I have done, many of them you know, okay? You know the rice. So if you go to a supermarket, grocery store, you pick up a Chinese bag of rice, it's typically in a 20-pound bag. What you don't know is the 20-pound bag, when they arrived at the store, typically is 5 bags of 20-pound bag put inside a big plastic bag. So that's 100 pounds. So I have to, if you know that all the rices are the big 100-pound bag, it's loaded in the truck. When you unload it, I have to get into the truck. I have to stand on top of the rice, which is wavy and soft. I have to pick up a 100-pound rice and not hand it over. I have to throw it, lift it up and throw it. And my partner have to stand under the truck and use his hand to guide it, because he can't hold it. 100 pounds is too heavy with the things thrown to him. He have to guide it onto a dolly. So then after he put about 4 of them, which is 400 pounds, or 5 of them, 500 pounds, then he lift the dolly and push it into the storage. So that was very tough. In Hong Kong in the summer, 100 degrees. And inside the container, it was 130, 140 degrees. And if you stand on uneven, soft surface and throw a 100-pound rice, and I was wearing jeans then, so I'm usually the strongest. I'm 6'2", so I'm a fairly strong guy. At that time, I was about 50 pounds lighter than I am now. So I was about 180, 190 pounds then. I was very strong. So, and even that, after unloading the rice, I was dripping sweat from my jeans. My jeans was completely soaked, and the sweat was coming from, I didn't even know that there was why my socks all wet. It's because of the sweat coming from the jeans soaked into my shoes. Yeah, so it's a tough job. And also, if you never know, like a soy sauce, a box of soy sauce, the big bottle of soy sauce, is about 12 bottles. So when we unloaded one stand on the top of the stairs, because Hong Kong supermarket very often is downstairs, okay? You cannot hand it over because it's too low efficiency. We have to pick up a 12-bottle box, throw it downstairs. Another person have to catch it. And if you don't catch it, the entire box is crashed, and that's come out of your salary. So believe it or not only takes strength, but takes a lot of skill. I think I still have some of the skill today. So yeah, try to throw a box of 12 large bottle soy sauce. That's very tricky, and without hitting each other, without breaking it. And we do hundreds of boxes every day, everything from soda cans to rice to canned food, everything.
That is incredible. And we always say God is very Chinese. He does not waste anything. Yeah. I imagine all those difficult life journey, God did not waste, right?
Amen. Amen.